Cross-account logging is a configuration in Amazon Web Services that allows users to pipe CloudTrail log data from one account to another account's S3 bucket. There are many reasons why you'd want to set up centralized logging in your environment. From an information security perspective, you may want to limit access to the logs from the users who created them. In this walkthrough, you'll set up cross-account logging between two AWS accounts and create a cross-account role. In this example, the name of the account that's sending the logs will be called source, and the account that's receiving the CloudTrail logs into its S3 bucket will be called target. At this point in the configuration, it's assumed that the CloudTrail and S3 bucket on the target account are already enabled. Let's first configure the AWS target account. For this, start two different browsers. This is required because AWS sessions cannot overlap, so you cannot navigate between two AWS accounts in the same browser, even on multiple tabs. Here we are using Chrome for the target account and Firefox for the source account. In Browser 1, open the AWS Management Console for the target account, the one that receives CloudTrail logs. In Browser 2, open the AWS Management Console for the source account. This is the account that sends its CloudTrail logs to the target account. Let's start with the target account. This account is configured first because the policy on the S3 bucket must be modified to allow the source account to write to it. When you create the CloudTrail in the source account, you'll have to name the S3 bucket. Unless the policy has been modified, the CloudTrail creation process in the source account will not recognize this S3 bucket in the target account and will therefore fail. The target account's S3 bucket will need to have a policy statement to allow the source account's CloudTrail service to put its log data into it. From Services in the target account, navigate to Storage and select S3. When you select the bucket, navigate to Permissions and then Bucket Policy. Here you'll see the policy. Make a copy of this existing policy in case you need to revert to a working copy of the policy later. Look for the policy statement in the action of S3 Put Object. Below that, you'll see a resource statement with the target account's account number. You'll need to add an additional resource statement to include the source account's number. Save it, and if there are any syntax errors, AWS will state that the policy contains invalid JSON. If this happens, try and find the error, or cancel your changes and restart, or revert to the original policy you copied earlier. For every other AWS account, you'll repeat this process of copying and pasting additional ARN statements and updating the account number. Save after each one to ensure that no syntax errors exist. Now that the target account's S3 bucket has the correct policy statement to allow the source account to send the CloudTrail logs, a cross-account role needs to be created for the target account. Oracle CASB Cloud Service relies on each AWS account to be able to read its own CloudTrail logs. To do this, each source account must assume the cross-account role to receive the correct entitlement to read the S3 bucket. Navigate back to Services and under Security, Identity and Compliance, select IAM. From Roles, create a new role and select another AWS account. This allows IAM users or roles you own to assume this cross-account role. Assuming the cross-account role grants the appropriate entitlements to the IAM user or role in order to read the S3 bucket. Enter the source account's account number. Then navigate to the next screen from where you can assign the permissions. Select the S3 read-only access policy Give the role a name and then create it. Select the role you just created in Roles. Open the Trust Relationship screen. This is the control that AWS uses to ensure only recognized source account users and roles can assume this role on the target account. Now edit the trust relationship. You can see that the principal is set for the source account and the access is root. To adhere to the information security policy of least privilege access, you'll want to change this to the ARN of the IAM user in the source account that will be used to monitor the source AWS account. Edit it in the same way as you did for the policy on the S3 bucket for the source account. Instead of adding a resource statement, which is what you're accessing, you'll need to add a principal statement, which is who is accessing the resource. For each source account, you will need to add a line. Remember to use square brackets and commas appropriately. Then update the trust policy. Now the target account configuration is complete, it's time to configure the source account. Log into your source AWS console to enable CloudTrail. Navigate to Services and under Management Tools, select CloudTrail. Give the CloudTrail a name. Notice by default it's enabled for all regions and is capturing all events. Select No for Create a new S3 bucket. In the S3 bucket field, enter the name of the target account's S3 bucket and select the name of the bucket. S3 bucket names are globally unique and it is important to be exact. If AWS throws the error, bucket doesn't exist, choose a different bucket, this means the policy on the target's S3 bucket is incorrect. So you would need to go back to the target S3 bucket's policy to ensure it is configured correctly. If you used a log file prefix to change the default location of the CloudTrail logs, make sure the policy ARN has the right path in the target account's S3 bucket policy. Create the CloudTrail. This will take you to the CloudTrail service. You will see the CloudTrail you just created and the name of the S3 bucket it's piping its logs to. Choosing the CloudTrail name will take you into the configurations page, where you can validate the settings of the CloudTrail. Here you can edit the configurations, disable the CloudTrail, or delete it altogether. Congratulations! You've configured cross-account logging. Thank you for watching.